All right, everybody, here is part 2 of the brake conversion for the Galaxie. We got the driver's side all done. So now what we're going to do is, as you see, it's got a single pot master cylinder. This is the brake light switch. I think I'm going to run these wires inside and use a switch on the pedal inside. Now, one of the problems I have with this car here is the headers. The junction box is right there and the lines run super close to the headers. So what I think I'm going to do is the left front wheel just runs from here over to the junction box. That's easy. I'm going to run this on up. Now on the passenger side, let me come over to the passenger side. I'll show you right here. The see the brake line? It's basically right up against the header. So I think what I'm going to end up doing on the passenger side is come underneath here and get some light going. There. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this line up and over and on the outside the frame, and then go this way. And then this actually runs down this cross member that goes underneath the motor to get this away from the exhaust. Because you can see right there, you know, with it connected, it's got, you can't even get your finger in there between it. So we're going to do that. So first thing we got to do is, here is the brand new master cylinder booster and the adapter bracket to fit the firewall. We have a proportioning valve and the bracket. And I do believe it is going to bolt together like this and then bolt underneath the master cylinder. And then these lines are running from the master cylinder into that. We've got all sorts of brake hardware and a switch for the light and some instructions. So that's where we're at right now. So I'm gonna have to crawl underneath the dash, disconnect the old master cylinder, get the master cylinder off, mock it up. Once I have it in, I'm gonna put one bolt in, then I can see how much room and where I have to run the brake lines. And then also too, I'll go ahead and get this all bolted up the way it's supposed to be. So let me get this bolted in and we'll get it mocked up underneath it. I'll show you what it looks like when it's mocked up. All right, we're getting the proportioning valve all mocked up here. So you put the bracket onto the studs of the master cylinder, and of course the front reservoir of the master cylinder runs the front brakes, and the back one runs the back brakes. So on this one here, this is the only way to mount the proportioning valve on this bracket. So they have these lines so they crisscross here. So this is the back brake, this is the back brake outlet, this is one of the front brakes outlets, and then the other one is right here. So I thought I'd give you a good look at that. That's how you're supposed to put that up. And let me get everything, still haven't gotten everything apart yet over here, but we will, and I'll show you. Alrighty, got the booster and the master cylinder sitting here where it belongs. I got the one bolt in up top, just holding it so I can start bending the line. So I've already made my first line. It comes out of here, curly cues around, then drops down and goes to the left front brake. So these are the way, I think I already showed this, how these have to cross over, because this is actually going to be the back brake here. And then the right front brake is going to come over and hook into here. Now, like I said, I'm going to reroute this line. So I'm going to come out of here, and then I'm going to make a curly cue and run it that way out. I almost could go ahead and pull this back out and finish tightening everything. I need to tighten up the nuts that hold the bracket in for the proportioning valve, and I still need to bleed the master cylinder. So actually I'm going to leave it here right now. I'm going to go ahead and make my other line for the right front, and then I'll have to figure out, I'm going to have to run the line out of here. I think I'm going to run this line out here and around and put a curly cue in it here, and then run down the frame and splice into the original one underneath. So it's slow going. This is that nickel copper line. It bends real easy. I just use a socket and the vise. I can bend these curly cues in it because this is a body on frame car that has rubber bushings. So the body moves up and down on the frame, and then these will give it some spring. So I don't know how much I'm going to show of me making the lines. I have other videos on how to flare stuff, but you just got to put it where you think it needs to go. So I have gotten all my lines mocked up, flared in where they need to go. This is for the rear brake line. It comes down, does its curly cue, and I think I already explained this. The reason why I curly cued them is because this is a body on frame car with rubber bushings, so the body tends to move on the frame, so that gives the brake line some stretchy thing. So this one here I tied into the original rear brake line over here in this corner. This is the line for the left front that runs down right to the left front. And then the right front runs down next to this one and then runs under the cross member to the other side. And on this one here, let me show on this side over here. I decided to run it outside the frame. And the reason being is it was run in here and it was like right on top of the header. So I think I have it tucked in far enough. It just comes in and loops in and then runs down the original cross member here. So now what I have to do is I have to take all the lines apart, take the booster back off so I can take and I need to tighten everything up. All the lines are loose. All these lines are loose. This whole thing is loose. I still have to put the brake pedal back on and bleed the master cylinder. So I'll be taking this back off, tightening up everything. You know, even the proportion valve's loose. So then I'm going to run the original brake lights inside to a Ford style switch. They did send a pressure switch to run in one of the lines. I don't want to take and run a pressure switch in one of the lines. So I still need to run the vacuum hose. There is a vacuum port. Whoops. There is a vacuum port over on that side of the motor that I'll run vacuum to. So far it seems pretty nice. I don't have a brake light switch yet. That's coming on Monday. So I guess for now, I'm going to take this back off, tighten everything up, get this installed, and then get the master cylinder bled, and that will be it for today. All right. So I got the master cylinder bled. I got all the new lines tight. These lines are tight. Did I tighten these lines? Oh, I don't think I tightened those lines. I still need to tighten those two lines. I forgot to tighten those two lines. But the booster is in and bolted up. I'll have to come back and tighten these two lines. And then we're gonna get bleeding and see if we can get a pedal. All right, well, we were getting ready to bleed the brakes on the Galaxie, so I thought I'd go ahead and check the rear brakes. And the brake shoes look great, but the wheel cylinders are full of sludge. And here, come on back. And they're leaking. So we're gonna get a couple wheel cylinders for the back and fix this. The other side's the same way. Here's the front one. The front one, you can see all that ookie pookiness in there, the rust. So we want this thing to stop really good. He's spending the money on the front disc. We're gonna go ahead and replace the wheel cylinders. This is the first car I've ever seen that's had 4 hold down on the brake shoes. Pretty weird, but anyway. So we got the wheel cylinders ordered, and then we'll go ahead and bleed the system out. All right, as you can see, I got the wheels back on, the skirts back on. I didn't want to bore you all with putting wheel cylinders on the car. So I got the wheel cylinders on the car. We got the system bled. I bench bled the master cylinder. I probably should have filmed that, but I didn't. The way I do it is I have these block offs that you block these off, and you put it in the vise and you use a screwdriver and you pump it back and forth until you get all the air out. And what will happen is eventually all the air will work its way out, and then this will get very hard to push in. takes like over 100 strokes to get it bled. So we bled that out. This car does have a place to put like a brake warning light. He didn't say anything about installing that, so I'm not going to worry about it. So here's the brake light switch wires. So I bought a 1966 Mustang brake light switch. This is the other rod that comes with the booster if you want your pedal lower or higher. So I'm going to show you how the Mustang one works. So there's a bushing that goes in, and then of course the brake pedal pin comes through, and then the brake light switch actually clips over top like that. And when you step on the pedal and push it in, this racks this switch back and forth and turns the brake lights on. So I hope that there's enough space in here for the pin to move a little bit to activate the switch. So I'm going to be putting that in. I'm probably not going to show much of that because I have to crawl underneath the dash to do that. But what else did I do? Oh, I also hooked up the vacuum port. There's a port over here in the intake that I put the port in. We ran the line underneath the carburetor linkage, and actually the PVC line was kind of above, so I moved everything down, wire tied it so that's out of the way. There's all my curly cues for my brake lines right there. I got to top off the brake fluid. That's all tight. Everything's tight. It's got a good pedal. I have not started the car yet, so I got to get the brake light switch done, and then we'll take it for a road test. Actually, it's kind of hard to work on the car underneath the dash with the rack here in the way. I never did show you all the interior. This thing has a very unusual kind of copper penny interior. Ignition switches on this side like a Porsche. Very beautiful car. There's the vintage air underneath the dash. Beautiful Galaxie. So let me get I got to get the car out and work on the brake light switch, and once I get it wired, maybe I'll come back and show you when it's completed. Hopefully it'll work. If not, then I'm gonna have to if it doesn't work on this car, then I'm gonna have to probably cut this line. Is it over here or is it still in the trunk? It must be in the trunk. Let me show you. I don't want to put this in. God, I don't want to put this in. Here it is. This is what they sell you. It splices into the line, and then you hook your brake light switch up to it, so when you press on the brake fluid pressurizes the switch and turns the brake line on. I don't like these. Just never have been a big fan of them. I know they used to run them for years. I just don't like it. So I'm gonna try to get the 66 Mustang brake light to switch to work on this. Alrighty, we'll be back. Alright, well, I tried to put the Mustang switch in, but the pedal pin isn't long enough to put the brake light switch in and the Mustang switch. So I ended up splitting the line and putting the brake light switch right here in the rear brake line. I double flared both fittings, put the old switch in because the old switch has those type of connectors that these things just snap onto. And I put some covering on the wire to hide up the butchery that somebody did. So last thing to do on this thing is probably give it a little road test. So let me wash my hands, we'll take it for a road test. All right, everybody, we're in the Galaxie, but we had a problem. When we were putting it together, we checked the right front wheel to make sure that the rim was going to clear, and the rim cleared. Then when I was trying to pull it out, it wouldn't move. The left front wheel was rubbing on the caliper, so we put a couple washers behind it right now to get it to move. It is a little bit easier to press the brakes down, but not as easy as I think it should be. Probably maybe needs more vacuum. But anyway, we're going to park it right here next to the GTO under the cover, and I'll call him and I'll see if he wants to go ahead and get some spacers. He's going to need like a 1/4-inch spacer on the left front. And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to put spacers on both of them, but at least now it rolls. I couldn't do the brake light switch like I said, so down there, so I'm not going to show you anything underneath there. I showed you underneath the hood already. Sounds pretty good. So there you have it. You got to be careful with these rims. You should check both sides. I was dumb and didn't check both sides. But there is part 2 of the Galaxie. And I know it's not the best video, part 2, but at least it still gives you an idea of what you have to do. All right, everybody, thanks a lot for watching part 2. Please subscribe. You can always do that in that corner. Please give me a thumbs up if you like my automotive videos.